Good morning and welcome to another Financial Friday on urlradio.net. And in the studio with me today from Legacy Financial Partners, I have John Lenars, our new financial gurus for Financial Friday. How's it going today, John?
You know, it's a Good Friday today when we're recording this, and so
Yes.
It's a beautiful spring day.
It is a beautiful spring
as
day.
I tell my clients when they call, it's just another day in paradise.
It is.
Yeah.
Or I always say, could be worse, because it has been.
Could be better, but most of the time it could be worse.
Yeah, absolutely. When we look at a year ago today, it's way better now.
You're talking about the pandemic.
About the pandemic, yeah.
Yes,
It was, that was crazy about a year ago. So I feel like 2021's okay.
It seems like ancient history at this point.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of ancient history, we are talking today about Social Security and compound interest. So Social Security, I think people know about it. People have heard about it. But what exactly is Social Security?
Social Security was started during the New Deal, during the Great Depression of the late 1920s and 1930s. And it was, the base history of it was there was no fallback for working people in the United States, that when they got to the point of old age,
When they couldn't work physically
anymore. And you got to remember, at that time, the nutrition wasn't what it is today. The water wasn't what it is.
And they had hard work. Like they were doing back-breaking work. Yeah.
Physically demanding on your body.
Yes.
And so it was originally called old age insurance, and and then later coined Social Security. But it was a program started by the federal government to give a backstop to every American worker, to give them some sort of income to sustain themselves in their later years when they couldn't work anymore. That was the basics of the program.
So how did they pay for it back then, and how are we paying for it now?
The method of payment really hasn't changed at all.
Okay.
And at the time, I believe when it was first started, every dollar of income was taxed at approximately 2 or 2.5%. I can't remember the exact number, but it was, and that number, of course, has grown over the years to the current rate of about 12.4% of your wages. I think that's the number. 12.4% of your wages are actually taxed and paid into the Social Security system. So currently, it's 6.2% of your wages are taxed on the first $142,800 in 2021 for every worker, no matter if they're self-employed or work for a wage and so on. There are several groups of people who are excluded from that, one of them being the railroad workers. They have their own pension plan.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there's some federal workers who are part of the federal retirement system that don't necessarily have to participate in Social Security. But by and large, anybody who earns an income from wages has to pay into the Social Security system on the first $142,000. As a W-2 employee, most people only see the 6.2% or FICA come out of their paycheck that goes to the Social Security Administration, and then your employer pays the other 6.2% into the Social Security Administration. And so those dollars all flow into the Social Security Trust Fund.
And I remember, I don't know if they still send out cards because I haven't got one in a while, but they used to send out cards that was like, hey, this is how much you're going to get so far if you retire.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's depressing.
That program was actually they would send out the annual statement.
Yeah,
and which are still available online.
Okay.
If you create an online Social Security account, those are still available online, and it gives you an estimate of what your benefits would be under current law and your most recent year's earnings and your historical earnings. And but they're all available at socialsecurity.gov. You would have to create your own username and password and log in, and it's available anytime. And I would highly encourage everybody to take a look at that and just see what that might play in their retirement plans. But funny story about that is when I first got licensed in 1999, and everybody would get it in the mail, and there'd be all this grousing about Social Security, and
Yeah.
clients would come in and go on about. But then I think it was in 2003 or 4, they stopped sending out the mailing to everybody every year, and it saved the Social Security Administration at that time about $260 million.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a pretty
Wow.
significant savings. So it makes better to go online.
So I feel like the person that was in the meeting that says, if we don't mail these things out, we could be saving a lot of money. I feel like they should have gotten a big raise or a promotion or something.
Or
Like-
just say, attaboy, you're doing your job.
Yeah, right. Good job.
Yeah.
You live to see another day.
Right.
But now, what's the stability of Social Security? Like, I feel like my generation, by the time in 20 years when I could retire, I don't know if I'm even going to get it.
Okay, that is probably the primary question that we as advisors always get.
Because I've always been told, go to a financial advisor, because if you're banking on Social Security to retire, you're screwed.
Well, and it's a misnomer in my opinion. The Social Security program as a program can't fail.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is that you always have a certain number of workers paying in and only a certain number of recipients.
Yeah.
So it's basically a hand-to-mouth program. As money comes in, money goes out.
Right.
To the recipients. And what's happened over time, and this is where your angst comes in,
Mm-hmm.
is that over time, especially after 1965 and Medicare was established, people started living longer, a lot longer than the actuaries first figured out.
Yeah.
And so now, like I tell my clients, if a couple comes into my office age 65 and they're going to retire, there's a 75% probability that one of them reaches age 90. And if you think
Wow.
about that, that's 25 years for at least one of the recipients to be getting a check. And they only paid in for 40. So they're getting, when you think about it in that aspect, that's part of the issue. And then there's been other add-on programs and so on. But by and large, as a program, it really can't fail. So that's a misnomer, because there's always this, as long as we have a civil society in the United States exists, there's always money coming in and money going out. The issue that everybody is running into is that in approximately 2031, there's going to be more dollars flowing out of the program than are projected to be flowing into the program.
Yeah.
So then by 2030, is it 2034 or 2000? I think it's 2034. Then the trust fund would be exhausted, and only about 77% of the benefits that are promised would be paid from cash flow of taxes coming in.
That makes sense. Now that makes sense when you talk about life expectancy.
All right. So I prepare my clients, especially those under the age of 50, that in all probability, if you've done well, there's going to be means testing at some point. There will be, if you're, the way to fix it is, you either got to increase revenue or reduce benefits. That's really the only two ways to fix it. And so at that point, most likely there'll be some form of means testing for higher net worth people, higher income people. During the 90s, there was a tax imposed on 85% of Social Security benefits for those who make over a certain dollar amount. So there's some income tax coming in from that as well. So there's been some things done to elongate the inevitable. And then the other thing you have to remember too is that the baby boomer generation is by and large about twice as many people as Generation X. And Generation X, once they,
That's true.
Once the baby boomers pass and Generation X is there's about half the recipients. And then the Generation Y and Generation X, they are, again, about the same number of people as the baby boomers.
Right.
So there's going to be more money coming into the system. So by and large, it'll correct itself eventually. It's what do you do in the meantime?
Right.
And so I had always advised my clients to plan on roughly 75% of those benefits being available, but it'll be there in some way, shape, or form.
What is the current retirement age for Social Security?
The current retirement age all depends upon the year that you were born. I was born in 1966, and my full retirement age is 67. That's been graduated up higher. The earliest that anybody can receive Social Security benefits currently is still age 62.
Okay.
And you can also delay your benefits until age 70 if you would like. So
if people have any questions about retirement planning, how their Social Security is going to tie into everything, what they should be doing to get ready for retirement, how can they get a hold of you guys, John?
Well, the easiest way to get a hold of us is actually just call the office here in Bismarck. That's at 701-258-9735. The receptionist will direct you to any one of us. Again, my name is John Lenars. We can also go to a couple of different websites. The first one being planwithlfp.com. That's the organizational website. And then my personal webpage is AmeripriseAdvisors.com/John, JOHN.LENARZ.
Perfect. All right. You've been listening to Financial Friday on urlradio.net.